Hey everyone, welcome to Spiral Emanations. I'm Sky Gracely. If you're joining us for the first time, we look for the weird, hidden, or just plain mysterious undercurrents in daily life.
And I'm Ree Sparrows. Sounds serious, but usually it's just us figuring out how strange the world really is.
Speaking of strange, this week, my neighborhood had one of those big Dia de los Muertos celebrations. Super colorful, altars everywhere, and of course, I went for it. Full face paint, like fully committed.
You got your face painted. That's bold. I can't picture you standing still long enough.
Yeah, LA really goes all out for Dia de los Muertos. Giant marigold arches, everyone in skull makeup, those altars with family photos and candles. But honestly, I feel like I only know the Instagram version. Reese, you've actually read up on this. What's the deal behind all the sugar skulls and the shrines?
The real story's wild. It's an old tradition from Mexico, going way back before there was even such a thing as Mexico. Think Aztec times. They believed the boundary between the living and the dead got thinner at this time of year. When the Spanish arrived, they tried to fold it into Catholicism, so now you get this mix. Families build altars or ofrendas with candles, flowers, food, and little sugar skulls. Each one's made to tempt the spirits of their ancestors back for a visit. Instead of treating death as something to hide away, it's a celebration, painted skeletons and all. Like you're saying, hey, we're still connected, don't forget us.
That actually makes so much sense. So the marigolds and face paint aren't just for the look. They're supposed to help the spirits find their way.
Exactly. The face paint with the skulls, the marigolds, that bright orange flower, they're all supposed to guide the spirits home. There's this idea that for a few days, nobody's really gone. They're just visiting on the other side of the candlelight.
I know, right? It was actually awesome, at first. But as I was leaving, it suddenly started raining, like, out of nowhere. And I could literally feel my makeup just melting. Of course, no good photos survived. All I got was this window reflection as I was walking home. And honestly, I didn't even recognize myself. I looked less like a lady of the dead and more like a startled panda.
A spiritual raccoon, maybe. That's a very particular LA vibe.
Pretty much sums it up.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I did my own public embarrassment routine this week. I went to the Leicester Square Christmas market and, for reasons even I can't explain, decided to rock my favourite embroidered silk cape. In hindsight, definitely questionable judgment. Maybe a little of both flair and folly. So I'm minding my own business, navigating through all these people with mulled wine, and suddenly a huge gust hits. Maybe a delivery truck sped by, or maybe the crowd just created some weird wind tunnel. But my cape catches the breeze and whips straight into a mulled wine stand.
Walk me through what happened after your cape crashed into the stand.
The cape took one for the team. It is now more mulled wine coloured than I ever intended. And for the record, Brian, he's our sound engineer if you're new here, can work wonders on our audio, but silk stains are beyond even him. Maybe it's time I rethink my entire wardrobe philosophy.
So between melting face paint and festive cape disasters, I think both of us are having expect the unexpected weeks, which is kind of perfect for tonight, honestly.
Exactly. We're talking about the hidden codes and odd patterns underneath everything, sometimes in molecules, sometimes just in wardrobe choices. That's really our theme tonight, expecting the unexpected, with patterns and surprises popping up where you'd never think to look.
Totally. And speaking of unexpected, there's this new book called Nanocosmos, Journeys in Electron Space by Michael Benson. He takes these incredible close-up photos, pollen grains, bits of metal, minerals, totally ordinary stuff, but blown up in a way you'd never expect. They're captured using beams of electrons instead of light, which lets you see things 1,000 times smaller than anything a regular microscope can show.
So everything just ends up looking not at all like you'd expect.
Seriously. And some of it is beautiful, but some of it is just weird. There was this one photo of a pollen grain, and I swear, up close, it looks like a medieval weapon. A spiked mace. I had to check the caption to believe what it actually was.
I saw that one. It's wild because if you didn't know, you'd never guess that's just pollen. And Benson, and the scientists he works with, they're starting to wonder if these wild shapes are just random or if there's something deeper about how nature builds itself.
Yeah, and that kind of fits with this other news story that grabbed me. So, over at Northwestern, Dr. Teresa Woodruff's group and Dr. Teresa Fitzpatrick at Missouri, they've been looking at what happens inside cells during, big life changes, fertilization, cell death. And get this, they actually caught these super quick little flashes of light, Real, physical flashes, coming from animal cells at the exact moment an egg gets fertilized or a cell dies. And they could only see it with special microscopes, like, it's that tiny.
It's wild how much is going on inside our cells that we never notice.
And just so you know, this isn't random internet stuff. They published all this in science and scientific reports.
Love a real citation.
Me too. What's cool, though, is that scientists still don't really know what the flashes mean. Some people think it's just chemistry. Some wonder if there's more to it. Like, could it be a signal? Nobody's figured it out yet.
That connects to something bigger. You keep seeing these stories from microscopic weirdness to flashes of light. For ages, people like Benoit Mandelbrot, Carl Sagan, and even artists and mystics have noticed repeating patterns everywhere you look. Fractals, hexagons, lattices, you name it, they turn up in snowflakes, honeycombs, rocks, even galaxies.
Okay, but what exactly is a fractal? That's one of those words I hear all the time, but it's still kind of fuzzy for me.
Think of a fern leaf or broccoli. You look at one little branch and it's shaped just like the bigger branch it came from. If you zoom in again, you get the same thing, repeating over and over. That kind of pattern, where each part echoes the whole, is a fractal. Mandelbrot, the guy who named them, realized that nature loves to build things this way, from the craggy edge of a coast to the spirals in a pine cone.
That's wild. These patterns aren't just in math. I see those spirals and the golden ratio all over Instagram, and every crystal shop in LA has a poster of a nautilus shell. What kinds of places do those patterns actually show up?
Those spirals show up everywhere. Sunflowers, pine cones, even hurricanes. And most of them map onto something called the Fibonacci sequence. It's this number pattern where each number is the sum of the two before it. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on. When plants grow, the way they pack seeds or leaves, it's almost like they're following this invisible code, maximizing space, catching the most sun. The result? You get all these wild spiral patterns. And the coolest thing is, nobody fully knows why nature favors it. It's like the universe leaving us clues, just tucked in with the pine needles.
See, I knew there was something magic about pine cones. It really does feel like nature's got its own secret language. Sometimes I wonder if it's all just math, or if there's more to it.
Right, and these patterns keep showing up everywhere, from pollen grains to galaxies. No one fully knows why, but it does make you feel like everything's connected in a bigger way.
Exactly. And that's why we've got the perfect guest tonight to help us dig in even deeper.
Absolutely, Sky. Tonight really is a perfect fit. Our guest is someone who has a real knack for finding the weirdest natural patterns out there. May Ling Trask joins us. She's a forensic horticulturalist, and if you've poked around the Verdant Palimpsest blog, you've seen her work exploring what she calls feral sites, those wild corners where nature kind of takes back the city.
By the way, palimpsest is one of those words I always see in poetry books or moody Instagram captions, but I actually have no idea what it means. Can you fill us in, Reese?
Sure. A palimpsest was originally a kind of recycled manuscript. Back in ancient times, parchment was really valuable, so people would scrape off the old writing to use the page again. But the thing is, those old words never fully disappeared. They'd haunt the new text, just faintly visible underneath. So a palimpsest ends up with layers of history, traces of what came before, hidden under what's on the surface now. It's honestly a perfect word for places where nature and time overlap. You never know what stories might be waiting underneath.
That makes so much sense, especially for the kind of hidden patterns we're talking about tonight.
So with that in mind, the idea of all those hidden layers, let's bring in the person who's actually out there uncovering them. May, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you both. I'm excited to be here. Feral sites can sound dramatic, but really, it's about noticing the places where plants get to do their own thing. No rules, not even the cities. Ever since I was a kid, I was always the one poking around behind buildings or under bridges just to see what was living there. But the turning point was when I started seeing moss and roots. Okay, this sounds bizarre, but actually stuck to metal and plastic, like bonded to surfaces where there weren't even any cracks. It completely challenged what I thought was possible.
That's wild. When you find something that out of place, do you ever wonder if it's just nature being random? Or if there's something more intentional about it? Have you ever come across anything that felt almost too strange to just be the city doing its thing?
There have been moments that honestly made me question if I was even seeing something natural at all. The weirdest was this lump I found wedged in a concrete alley. It looked like a rough stone at first, but it had all these tiny winding channels carved over the surface, almost like someone had etched miniature riverbeds into it on purpose. And inside, buried in the cracks, were these glints of green glass, like slivers from another world. My compass spun uselessly when I got near it, and the local moss kept trying to creep right up to it, like it was magnetized or something. The construction crew on site called it a starstone, and even joked maybe it dropped out of the sky. It was one of those finds that just sits in the back of your mind, because it didn't fit any explanation I had. And the more I started finding things like this, unexpected patterns, materials fusing in impossible ways, or even the same kinds of markings turning up on moss, weird mineral stains, and old rails, the more it seemed like a bigger story. Lately, it feels like these field oddities are starting to echo the same strange designs and motifs scientists are reporting when they zoom in close. Almost as if there's a hidden thread connecting all of it. I even started calling it the Cantor Code in my notes, just to keep track.
The Cantor Code. That's such a cool name. So, are you thinking there's a kind of message here? Or just that nature's got a lot more structure than we realize?
There was one time that really stuck with me. I was doing a survey a couple of years ago at an old GM plant in Detroit that was about to be torn down. I ended up in this little windowless room, a tool crib, and found moss not just growing on, but actually fused into the metal parts and the plastic of a fuse box. It wasn't at a seam or a crack. I scraped some of it out and took it back with me, kept it in a jar. Over the next few weeks, the surface, it would shift, almost like new ridges forming. Sometimes it looked like symbols. I even sent a sample out for testing, but all I got back was inconclusive. A few months later, I'm browsing through these new electron microscope images scientists had published. Mostly minerals, you know? I stopped cold. The patterns were nearly the same as the ones on that moss. It really threw me.
That's incredible, and honestly, kind of eerie. How do you see moss differently now?
Ever since I started noticing these strange patterns, I can't look at moss the same way. Now every patch feels like it might be hiding some kind of secret or code. That's why I end up bringing home so many weird samples to look at more closely.
It's wild to think there could be hidden messages, or whatever you want to call them, in places we completely ignore. I want to dig into what all this means, because if the Cantor Code is real, that changes how we look at the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to unpack. I can't wait to hear the deep lore side of this.
There's one myth that really gets under my skin. It comes up when you dig into the oldest pattern legends. The story goes that, just as Atlantis was collapsing, two master code workers, Karos and Lissa, faced off at this warped black glass monolith called the Obsidian Pylon out past the city's edge. Instead of weapons, they used lens-like crystals that supposedly let them see and rewrite the fundamental codes running through reality. They battled by twisting those codes in the air, bending the world around them, time hiccuping, gravity flickering. In the end, Karos won, barely, and to keep that kind of power from escaping again, he locked the code away, hid it deep inside layered patterns throughout the world. That's why, if there's any truth to it, we're left sifting through scattered fragments and echoes, the kind that sometimes leak out into the world we know today. Whether you take it as myth or metaphor, that idea is what keeps me looking for places where those echoes still leak out, especially where wild plants creep into old machinery. When you actually see them up close, it's just, honestly, stranger than you'd expect.
When you look at these patterns, what kinds of shapes stand out to you? Are there any that remind you of something from a nature guide, or others that feel totally unfamiliar?
I wish they were as tidy as a field guide. What you typically find is way more crooked and tangled, never regular. Sometimes, when moss grows on pipes or other surfaces, you'll see blue-green streaks and rough, uneven ridges. It's rarely a repeating pattern, more like an organized mess. It's not at all like what I learned to expect as a botanist, that's for sure.
That actually lines up with some of the stuff I've seen in those new Michael Benson electron microscope photos. Like minerals and grains of pollen that have totally odd shapes. You sometimes get these bulges and little forks, almost like the material is trying to go in two directions at once.
Right. It's wild, because the weirdest combinations I find are always in places nobody's touched in years. Like in old rail yards, sometimes moss will even leave these faint, bluish stains on metal surfaces. It always surprises me.
I saw in your blog you talk about two kinds of Cantor marks, the Mandelic order and the severity function. How do you actually tell them apart when you're out in the field?
Yeah, the Mandelic marks are never the same twice. You might see lichen or moss that grows in broken, shifting lines, jagged clusters, especially after rain. Severity marks are different. They're sharp, like glass shards tangled in wire, or a sudden hole cut through stone, or metal and rock fuse together in an abrupt, almost violent way. Sometimes there are even weird cold spots where nothing should feel cold. Over time, you just start to spot the differences.
How do other people in your field react when you show them these marks?
It mostly gets dismissed, but a few explorers notice. Most oddities pop up after storms or demolition. Change wakes up these patterns.
That fits with all those dreamlike old stories. Fairy circles, footprints, shapes that just appear. It's amazing how science is catching up with what folklore's noticed for ages.
Like the devil's footprints. I've heard that name, but what really happened?
In 1855 Devon, people woke up to find miles of cloven hoofprints crossing snow, over walls, roofs, even rivers. No one could explain it. Some said it was the devil, others blamed animals, but patterns have always unsettled people.
It's like the world's been signaling us for centuries, but the message keeps changing.
Or faces showing up in floors. The Belmez faces. Creepy and totally unsolved.
Yeah, strange stains in a kitchen floor in Spain. Faces that seem to shift or return even after the floor was replaced. Scientists checked for hoaxes, chemicals, anything. Still no answer. Pareidolia plays a part. Our brains see patterns, especially faces, everywhere.
Kind of amazing what our minds pick out. Sometimes I wonder if that's why old places or old instruments feel so charged.
Stradivarius violins are a perfect example. Centuries old, built with uncanny care. But even with today's science, no one can fully reproduce them. Some say it's just materials. Others think it's the pattern, something left in the wood.
And sometimes, even plants seem to find those patterns. Moss curling into old carvings or stones, lining up with paths people walked for centuries.
I've read about labyrinth stones in Europe. Why did people make them? What else were they used for?
Those stones usually mark out a single winding path. People think they were used for rituals, maybe for luck or protection. And patterns like these have been found in different places all over the world.
Do you think these kinds of codes or patterns show up in other places too? Like, not just in old stones or folklore, but maybe even in music or things like crop circles?
Crop circles are a fascinating example. Some have weird roots or scorched marks that science can't easily explain. We want to see meaning in disturbance.
There have even been reports of roots twisting in odd mineral lines you don't see in normal fields. It's all connected, echoing the same story. There are stories about code weavers. Sometimes I call them the cantors in my notes, who set patterns into the world a long time ago. Whether the stories are true or not, the patterns still show up today in places nobody expects.
That's the lesson. Try to own or force the pattern, and it backfires.
The marks still turn up today. After demolition, it's common to see mushrooms popping out of fresh cracks or vines threading through old wires, always after sudden change.
And when you bring back samples, ever seen them shift after the fact?
Some people notice dried moss turning odd colors, or labels peeling and sticking in strange ways. Reminds you some things don't want to follow instructions.
So observation is mostly safe, but control is risky.
Yeah, I just try to pay attention and let things be.
That's honestly kind of freeing. Maybe some mysteries want to stay wild.
I love